Good Friday evening, everyone. Thanks for stopping by for a check of your forecast. We have got a handful of thunderstorms really starting to pulse up here across the Texas Panhandle. Got a couple severe warned storms. This one out here in Lipscomb County is dying a very quick death. We will put this on a 30-minute lapse to show you what it looked like a half hour ago. Really beefy storm, and it just fell apart as it drifts across Highway 60. But there has been some heavy rain out here, mainly northwest of the highway corridor, northwest of Higgins. That's where they've picked up as much as 1 to 2 inches of rain. You can see they actually just let that warning expire there at 8:45 p.m. We also have another severe thunderstorm warning. This is for that cluster coming out of Union County there in New Mexico. That is for 1 inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Let's go ahead and take a look at your volume slice just to see what these storms kind of look like. Again, they are pretty tall. Obviously, they've been severe warned. So you can see a lot of them around that 30,000 cloud foot height, 40,000 cloud foot height. Take a vertical slice too. That may be a little bit easier to see some stuff. But you can see those cloud tops right around that 30 to 40,000 foot mark. See if we can't find one of these taller cells up here. So like here's one right here west of Amistad. Right now, seeing a cloud top height around 50 to 55, or sorry, 45 to 50,000 feet. The higher DBZ values are punched up to about 40,000 feet, so certainly capable of probably some quarter-sized hail. But that's going to be warned until 9:45 p.m. there in Dallam and Hartley County. These storms are likely going to congeal into a bigger complex as we roll through the rest of this evening. We also have some new development out here. This stuff's been congested cumulus clouds for the last couple of hours. We've seen attempts for a thunderstorm to develop for the last few hours, just haven't really gotten anywhere with them. But now we're finally starting to see as that shortwave perturbation pushes out of New Mexico and Colorado. We've got some better lift aloft, some dynamic lift at least above our heads, which is allowing some of these storms some additional means to get going per se. And they are just now developing there around Moore and the north side of Potter County. These haven't really had much movement to them. They've just kind of pulsed up, but generally speaking, they should kind of drift in a south and east direction as we get into the overnight hours tonight. So we'll be keeping an eye, I think, on this one in Potter County to see if it maybe impacts the northern half of the city. And then we'll really be watching this stuff, which will likely congeal into a mesoscale convective complex. Just a big group of thunderstorms that's going to push across the area. Biggest concern tonight is going to be those winds gusting to 70 miles an hour for any kind of severe weather hazard. But I think flooding is going to become our primary concern running through the rest of this evening. This is a live look outside at our sky cam up there in Bushland. Seems like it's got a mind of its own. There we go. You can see it looking at that thunderstorm that just developed there to the north of Bushland and the north of Amarillo. So here's your cloud base. Here's your updraft. Got that big downdraft starting to already form there. So this storm looks like it's going to be able to cycle at least to some degree. We'll see if it becomes more of a multi-cell storm mode or if it stays that isolated storm mode here as we get into the evening hours. Josiah, do you mind taking over real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Shouldn't have been in the ryegrass this morning.
No worries, recover, Corbin. Hello, everyone. So as Corbin was discussing, we do have, again, a few of these severe thunderstorms in the area. We did have a couple pop up, as he previously ended talking about those in Potter County. But of course, the main story here are going to be the complex of storms that are developing and going to be continuing migrating further south and east. They're coming out of portions of Union County and then also making its way there into Hartley County. So if you are outdoors currently, I would recommend heading inside as these storms roll through. We are seeing a lot of cloud to cloud lightning, but that doesn't mean that we could have one or a few bolts of lightning make their way to the ground. So I'd recommend heading indoors, especially as these strong storms move through. These have currently been warned for about an inch in about inch in diameter sized hail, as well as wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour. So again, if you are outdoors currently, seek shelter if possible, as well as these heavy downpours that are going to be associated with some of these storms. Uh, I'd recommend heading indoors if you can, because it can be hard traveling, especially if you currently are out. But it seems that Corbin is back, so I'll hand the reins back over to him. But I will still be here on the side.
Yeah, Josiah is our weekend forecaster, so make sure you guys give him a warm welcome in the comment section. He is likely to make his debut on air tomorrow, so you guys will see him on TV on Saturday. But we're glad to have him here, get some extra help in the studio. I know he's excited. He's not a local, kind of way up in the New England area, up towards New York, so he's a long way from home, so just make sure you guys make him feel welcome. Again, we just have a few severe warning storms, really just the one now. That one over there in Lipscomb County was allowed to expire, so we just have this one up in Union, and you just kind of extended it into the western and northwest panhandles. That's, again, warned until 9:45 p.m. 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds is what you can expect with that storm as it moves through. Looks like we're about to get a new warning for this cluster up here in Cimarron County. They're going to go 70-mile-an-hour winds and quarter-sized hail with that group of storms up there. So you're going to see this populate a new warning here momentarily. They haven't issued it just yet, but they did give us a heads up that it is coming up there between Keys and Boise City. So this little group of cells you see here. And this one will probably be until 9:45 as well, if I had to imagine. They might have it go until 9 o'clock tonight. Usually they go about 45 minutes to an hour for that warning when they send out a new polygon. But they're starting to see a lot of development here just north of Amarillo too. So we'll see if this stuff can, see how long it takes for it to really congeal into a big complex. Our biggest concern for this evening is going to be the flood threat. I know that we had kind of briefly talked about that. Let's go see if we can't find that graphic. Here you go. So you can see we've got a lot of counties under an aerial flood watch. This went into effect at 7 p.m. here for the Panhandles and 6 o'clock there in eastern New Mexico. It runs until 1 a.m. for the Panhandles. So you can see that that's going to run for the next couple of hours or so. That might get extended just depending on how long it takes this complex of storms, especially the heavier thunderstorms, to make their way through the area. But it does run until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning in New Mexico there for Quay, Curry, Union, and Roosevelt County. And again, we could see some rain rates as high as 2 to 6 inches per hour. And where these storms pulse up initially, on top of maybe the MCS that gets going later this evening, those are going to be some of those pockets that pick up 2, 3, maybe even some localized 4 inches worth of rainfall. Again, this is just kind of your probability to get to 3 inches of rain. The chances are pretty low, but they're not zero. And you can see that obviously Lipscomb County had that one storm drop a lot of rain there. Your odds probably going to go up if we get some additional storms to pop up there due to that lone cell that got going earlier this evening. But we do have places like Pampa, Amarillo, Vega, and Hereford, including Canyon and Paladoro Canyon State Park and Cedar Canyon, for that 15 to 20% chance. There's about a 1 in 5 chance that we get to 3 inches of rain overnight tonight. We're still favored to fall below that number, but there are a few outlier models that are suggesting that we could see some copious amounts of water, at least in a narrow corridor here in the Texas Panhandle. It's not going to be for everyone. In fact, if we take a look at our computer model, this might be a new one, you can see that complex is fairly localized. It's not going to cover the entire area, but it is going to produce some pretty heavy rain where it tracks through the region. This is Saturday morning. Looks like this thing's actually pushing back the timing for some of this stuff well into Saturday morning. And then into the afternoon, we'll probably have some quieter weather, just given the fact that we'll stay cool and we're in a post-frontal situation where that cold front is draped much further to the south. And we've got that MCV that's producing some rainfall out there in western Oklahoma. So let's go ahead and take a look at your future rainfall. Again, this is the latest model. Take it for a grain of salt. It's not going to have gospel truth for those exact numbers. You're probably going to have more, it's probably not going to be 2,207 inches of rain in Amarillo, but just notice it does pick up on a swath of rain here in the southwest panhandle. You can see a lot of yellow being depicted where these storms maybe train over the same locations. If that were to come to fruition, you're probably going to see 2 to 3 inches worth of rain in some spots. So that's the concern. The question is exactly where that's going to happen here in the panhandles. There are going to be some areas where storms don't pass overhead. You probably stay mostly dry tonight. The coverage of rain is going to be around 60 to 70%. So there's going to be some pockets in here that probably don't see any precipitation tonight. But more than not, we will have some rainfall by the time you wake up tomorrow morning. So there's that new warning up there in Cimarron County. That one's warned for 70-mile-per-hour winds and 1-inch hail. That one's moving south at 10 miles an hour. So that's another reason why the flood threat's pretty moderate and high today. Storm motion is very slow, only around 10 miles an hour. I mean, if you're a fast runner, you can outrun some of these thunderstorms as they continue to track in a southerly and southeast direction. Maybe not for very long, but you can. Let's go ahead and take a quick peek at that storm there in Bushland again. You can see really nice rain shield out there off in the distance. Got a really nice, there's a big CG, cloud to ground lightning strike. Time that out right. And then you've got the big cloud base here where you're getting that storm to billow up. That's the updraft of the thunderstorm. Generally speaking, this stuff's going to be a big complex tonight. It's not going to be much supercell potential. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm breathing better when I'm standing up than I am sitting down. I know that sounds weird.
Yeah, you can see how that one just blew up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's go ahead and take a quick look at visible satellite. You guys can probably see some of this stuff too. We'll put your ticker on here too for some of those severe thunderstorm warnings that we have. You can see again a lot of that stuff really starting to blossom as that sun goes down here in the central panhandle, right there around Dumas and Moore County. You can see again some of those overshooting tops punching through the anvil from some of those storms out there in New Mexico. Things are about to really light up, I think, across the northern half of the area, which we kind of expected this to be a later evening event. But yeah, lots of storms starting to go off as that shortwave disturbance passes from northwest to southeast through the area. And tomorrow looks honestly like a pretty quiet day after this stuff clears out. The afternoon, again, I think a lot of our rain's going to happen here within the next 12 hours. I know the Weather Prediction Center's got like a slight risk for excessive rainfall for tomorrow. That generally will be for the morning from midnight till 7 or 8 a.m. After that, it's going to get really spotty for our rain coverage in the afternoon. It's just going to come down to where that MCV sets up. It could certainly kickstart a few storms tomorrow evening, at least on an isolated level, but it's not going to be widespread, I don't think. The latest high-resolution rapid refresh models got a nice little swath of heavy rain from Moore, Potter, and Randall County west back into Hartley, specifically Oldham County, and then a good chunk of Deaf Smith County, where there's some pockets in here where there's like 1 to 2, 3, and maybe even some isolated 4 inches of rainfall. That was the latest outlook, latest model run that's come in, and it's also depicting a lot of very heavy rain kind of in the Wichita Falls region on Sunday morning. They could even see some stuff down there in the hill country again tomorrow afternoon. It's going to come down to where those storms pulse up. Again, those watersheds are pretty narrow. It's a lot of canyon land down there. Recovery efforts still ongoing down there. Blake Brown's actually going to be down there this weekend, one of our storm chasers, helping with recovery for a couple of days. He's unsure of exactly what they're going to have him assigned to do, but he'll be out there Saturday and on Sunday to help with some recovery. So hopefully they don't have any more flooding issues there over the next 24 to 48 hours, but there are going to be some pockets of storms down there. So they've gone ahead and put out a strong storm statement for the storms there around Borger and Dumas. It's just for this entire cluster that you've seen recently pop up on the map right up in here. All of these are warned, not warned. They're for 55-mile-per-hour winds and some penny-size hail. Going to be a pretty big swath of rain to come moving through the panhandles tonight. We do have the severe thunderstorm watch also in effect. I don't think we've talked about that one just yet. Severe weather going to be more likely the further west you are in the panhandle tonight. There's better instability. There's more wind shear. That's the big notable thing, is there's more wind shear the further west you get. Marginally enough for these storms to try and maintain themselves, or at least maintain a multi-cell structure. Further east you get, the wind shear gets pretty abysmal, and that's actually something that's needed for updraft maintenance. If we don't have enough wind shear, the downdrafts will interfere with the updraft, and it chokes them off, kills that storm, and they fall apart. And again, about the only thing we get in the summertime when we don't have enough wind shear are pulse-like thunderstorms. And again, sometimes the outflows can kickstart some more storms, but this is going to be more of like a MCS style event where you get a big swath of rain to come pushing out of New Mexico and in the northwest panhandles. Probably going to get pretty far through the area tonight. I wouldn't be shocked if even places as far south as Silverton, Tulia, and Dimmitt may be dealing with some very heavy rain tonight. Let's go ahead and take a look at your aerial flood watch. I know that you guys aren't under a watch for right now. That's a decision that still could change from the National Weather Service there in Lubbock. They don't plan to issue one yet. I think they're going to wait and see how things progress through the rest of this evening and how far south some of those storms are going to be. But definitely looks like that you guys could see maybe the southern extension of some of this very heavy rainfall from some of these thunderstorms. I mean, our PWatt values are exceptionally high today. We're talking about precipitable water amounts upwards of 1.5 inches, which is about the 95th percentile for us this time of the year. And so these storms are going to produce a lot of rain. It's going to come down very quickly. So you can see that warning there in Union County was just allowed to expire. These storms have fallen below severe limits out there. So hopefully a lot of this stuff stays below severe limits. Again, the biggest concern is flood threat tonight. These storms are going to produce rain rates of 2 to 6 inches an hour. That's an exceptionally high amount of water in a short period of time. Even though these are going to have some forward motion to them, this isn't going to be like the MCV that happened down there in the hill country. At least that's not the expectations with this stuff. We still could see some really high rain amounts for this geographical region. We're talking about 2, 3, maybe locally some 4-inch rain totals overnight tonight, which is a lot of rain. That's 10 to 20% of our annual rainfall average here that could come within the next 12 hours. That is going to lead to some flooding concerns. It's probably not going to be catastrophic flooding. We're talking more of a moderate level risk for some low-lying areas to be inundated with some water, flash floods down maybe in the tributaries. Your streams, creeks, things like that could certainly be prone to seeing some rising water over the next 12 hours with some of these storms starting to billow up. The Canadian River, we only have one gauge here in the Texas Panhandle before it gets to Lake Meredith. So being able to monitor it, at least from a river gauge standpoint, is going to be near impossible, except for right up here where it crosses Highway 87. There is a gauge there where we can get some rising water at least measured and received with some of these storms out here. So these rain rates, again, are going to be pretty telling over the next few hours if they do reach that rain gauge, or not that rain gauge, that river gauge out there. Yeah, so the Stratford's got that SPS statement now as well. This is this storm here, capable of some penny-sized hail, nickel-sized hail, and 55-mile-an-hour winds. So here's Borger. You can see some of those storms off in the distance. This is kind of looking west-northwest right now. You can see a few cells popping off pretty close to the river, or not to the river, to the Lake Meredith out there. These are going to be north of Lake Meredith, the ones that you're seeing. Stinnett would be kind of off here, off to the right. Lake Meredith is over here kind of towards the left. And these are just some of those cells north of the lake up there in probably the west side of Hutchinson County and the east side of Moore County. Seeing some additional development now in Oldham County. Things are really starting to kind of grow, and the coverage of storms is going to be fairly numerous and widespread tonight, at least more so than they have been over the last few nights. Certainly not a guarantee for rain, but there is a high chance for it. So again, if you have evening plans tonight, just plan accordingly. We'll go ahead and time this out for you. I really don't like the latest run that's come in off of our computer model. I think that the afternoon run initialized a bit better, so I'm going to jump back to this one and we'll just kind of walk you through it. So this is 9 o'clock. Generally speaking, the storms are already a little bit further to the south than this right here, but I think it's doing a decent job as far as coverage goes. So this is 11 p.m. I wouldn't be shocked if we're starting to see rain here around Amarillo in the next couple of hours with some of these storms as they make their way south and east. This is 12 o'clock. You can see then a very nice tail end Charlie storm. Again, this could be a pretty intense one if it does become realized. Some of these cells could certainly still be severe at midnight tonight. We have the severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 1 a.m. By 2 o'clock, it's probably becoming more just moderate rain at this point. The flood risk will start to decrease slowly as those rain rates decrease as well, but still could see some flooding in the rivers, the tributaries, things like that could still be a problem. Places that funnel a lot of water into one centralized location, like the Canadian River Valley, Paladuro Canyon, Cedar Canyon, some of those areas could see some heavy rainfall, and that could lead to some flooding in at least some localized areas, and maybe even some flash flooding. You can kind of see this starting to rotate a bit up here in the northeast panhandles. It's a remnant MCV, or mesoscale convective vortex, just a meso low formed by all the general thunderstorm activity that we've got from tonight into tomorrow morning. Notice how quiet it is in the afternoon. Again, we get some storms out there in New Mexico, and then as we get into Sunday morning, we see this low start to lift up to the north and east, and so we're going to see more of a northeast breeze. It may be a pretty dry day on Sunday, but it's going to be a cooler day. High is going to be in the 80s. It's about a 10 degrees below average for us, which has been a really, I wouldn't say strange. It's been a welcome change compared to recent summers. I mean, we've had some summer heat really a lot over the last several years. Ever since I've been here, I feel like summer's been pretty hot, at least for the most part. We had a couple of cooler summers. 2023 was relatively cool with that really wet May that we had. And that kind of carried us into the summer months where we continue to see those rain chances. And we're kind of seeing the same thing play out this year as well. We've got a lot of rain early that's kept the grass green, that's kept the humidity high, it's held back that dry line further and further west, which continues to act as that positive feedback for us to see some additional storms at least a bit further into the summer months. Another contributing factor to our persistent moisture is the Bermuda high. It is very expansive right now, actually centered kind of over Bermuda in the western Atlantic, just off the coast of the Carolinas. And so what that does is you've got that clockwise rotation, or and that just continues to push a lot of the trade winds up into the Gulf, and the Gulf trade winds push up into the southern plains. And so we've had this low level moisture in place. We're just waiting for the disturbances aloft to kickstart some of these thunderstorms. Looks like a pretty beefy storm. Mm-hmm. Josiah's looking at this one up here in North Potter County. Let's take a volume slice of this thing. So you can see got a really, really tall hail core. You can see right up there around 25 to 40,000 feet. It's pretty lofty for some of those higher reflectivity values. This is what it looks like from bushland. And there's a new cell that's going up out there too. They are going to warn it.
Yeah, 60 mph.
So they're going to have a marginal severe warning out here for this storm.
Just made it. Just made the cut.
Yep, just got the cut for severe storm. That is, that's this storm right here. So this is the one that's going to get the severe thunderstorm warning tag to it. There it goes. Just got it. 10:15. There's that other cell that we just briefly looked at from Bushland too, pulsing up there north of Wildorado. One-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds possible with this one. So if you're over there near Puente and Bowdoin, this storm's pretty well stationary, but you guys do fall inside the polygon. Biggest issue probably will end up being the damaging wind concern, gusts up to 60 miles per hour. You know, I still don't see an outflow boundary from it though, so we will see. If it does end up having some downburst winds, we'll start to see them on the outflow on reflectivity with an outflow boundary. You can kind of maybe even make them out on storm relative velocities if we get an outflow boundary going. Right now, it looks like a lot of that stuff still lofted up in the air. I mean, look at that. That is a massive core. Starting to get some DBZ values of close to 70, which is really indicative of either torrential rainfall, rain rates probably around 5-6 inches an hour, or a mixture of rain and hail out there. Which again, they do have it warned for 1 inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, you've got that core is pulsed up all the way to 45, almost 50,000 feet. That's pretty impressive of a thunderstorm. Certainly means business. Put a quick time lapse on here just to show you guys what these storms have been doing for the last half hour. Some of these are pretty new in their life cycle. A lot of the stuff out here in the central and northwest panhandle has recently just developed here within the past hour. Got a new lightning strike on that cell there just north of Wildorado. See what the lightning mapping array says for how many strikes we've got going on around the area. So static discharges, there's been 220,000 here in the last 10 minutes. In the Texas Panhandle, there's been 185,000. So very, very active cumulus clouds. Again, a static discharge doesn't necessarily mean that it's a lightning strike. Could just be collisions between a proton and a neutron, and the lightning sensor just detects that. And so the mapping array just picks up all of that stuff. So it may not be an actual lightning discharge itself, but you are getting some collisions of some protons and neutrons out there, which is creating that static discharge. They've already gone ahead and issued an aerial flood advisory too, it looks like, for that storm in Potter County. What does it say?
Caused by excessive rainfall, minor flooding in low-lying and poor drainage areas, rises in small streams, and normally dry rills.
Yeah, arroyos.
Arroyos.
Playa lakes, places like that. Those will probably start to catch some ponding water.
Already half an inch to an inch of rain has already fallen.
Yeah, let's take a look at our this is radar estimated rainfall, so take this with a grain of salt. It may not be exact to the nose what you see there, but it does give you a really good idea and a very a good rough guess. I mean, you're usually within about 95% accuracy with radar estimates whenever you're talking about rainfall. Technology's come a long way in the last 30 years. You wouldn't be able to do this 20 or 30 years ago, just estimating how much rain's fallen from some of these storms, at least not this accurately. So you can see 2.4 is the bullseye there between Addy and Marsh, east of Boys Ranch. So right there, really kind of on top of the Canadian River. We will catch probably a quick spike in the water levels as they rise there at the river gauge on Highway 87, right there near Marsh as it continues to flow down towards Lake Meredith. In the morning. A lot of this is going to be torrential rainfall today. Rainfall rates up to 2 to 6 inches per hour will be possible. If you guys are just now tuned in, that's going to be our biggest concern running through this evening. Is going to be seeing some high rain rates coupled with just training thunderstorms or just very slow moving thunderstorms. You guys hadn't seen the post earlier I had earlier this morning. I did get bit by 3 flies this morning while in the garden. And if you are believers of the old wives' tales, when the flies are biting, it's going to rain. I got bit yesterday too, and I had 207 inch of rain this morning. So, there's probably some truth to that. They can sense the atmospheric changes pretty well.
So they just removed Oldham County from that city of thunderstorm.
Yeah, it looks like they just trimmed it up to the north. Josiah's talking about this storm out here in Hartley County. So they've gone ahead and just kind of reduced the how expansive that severe thunderstorm warning is. It's going to run for another 25 minutes up until 9:45 p.m. We'll see if they continue it or maybe extend it with a new warning. Given there's not a whole lot of, I don't see many outflow boundaries out here, so these storms don't look like they're putting down strong winds, but really just some very heavy rainfall. That is again going to be our biggest concern tonight, is going to be dealing with rain rates of 2 to 6 inches an hour. Again, we only get about 20 inches of rain a year in Amarillo. You get about 17 in Tucumcari, and you get about 24 in Shamrock. Some of us, if we see 4 inches of rain tonight, you're talking about 10-20% of your annual rainfall average. So a pretty sizable amount of water could be coming here over the next 12 hours. That's going to come down very quickly, going to lead to some of those playa lakes filling up with water. Some of those small tributaries could certainly become inundated, maybe some minor flash flooding issues. So if you're close to a river down there on the Canadian River, you may consider getting away from the river, just because that does have a pretty big watershed. We may start to see a lot of this water run off here tonight, and you're probably going to see a rise. Whether or not it gets to flood stage is still kind of up in question. You really need the rain in the watershed first in order for that to happen. I mean, you're already starting to see some of that there just to the west of 87. I know there's a lot of people that go take their ATVs and they go mudding out here, and they just kind of tootle around up there in the marshes and stuff. So just keep that in mind. You've got some rain falling upriver right now, and that's only got one way to go, and that's downstream. So you will start to see that water probably come up.
Extending the Cimarron County until 10 p.m. Central Daylight.
Okay, so this one's getting extended until 10 p.m. Still warned for 1 inch hail and 70-mile-per-hour winds. Still moving to the south at approximately 10 miles per hour. Almost looks like it's got semi-supercell structure.
They're also keeping an eye to the west of Boise City.
Of Boise City, yeah.
Boise City, yes.
So this is the one they're watching. This one, we'll take a quick vertical slice of that one just to see what it looks like. Pretty shallow, if you ask me. Generally, you want those cloud tops to be around 40,000 feet, where you start getting some of those higher DBZ values of 25 and 30 DBZ. Getting an anvil to settle out there around 40,000 feet, that's usually indicative of a pretty strong storm close to severe limits. So we'll see. This one right now doesn't look like it's probably at severe limits. So like this one, totally. You've got some of the high DBZ values right there at 40,000 feet. And so that one's a more robust thunderstorm right there, especially in the core. You can see the updraft and then the downdraft. So here's where you've got the updraft lofting a lot of this rain and hail. The wind shear pushes it over, and then it falls to the ground. And so you're seeing some of that heavy precipitation there on that storm right there. Let's go ahead and zoom back out, take a whole view of the panhandle.